Apologies for the delay. I forgot how to switch the channels on. But at least I've made a start. So here I have a melon and a spoon. And some structure. So I was just chatting to myself, apparently, about Uglo and his use of colour, but also his sort of fastidiousness with his drawing and his measuring, and that way of solving those problems of finding out how much you can possibly know about something, albeit unnecessary. At the same time, I heard someone sort of repeat the other day, perfectly valid point, which is that we have cameras now, and this idea of painting having to accurately represent or depict what it looks like is not necessary, which I agree entirely. And at the same time, there's a kind of a satisfaction in that. And it got me thinking about, well, how many other things can we get a machine to do now that we still like to do ourselves? You know, you can get a machine to do all sorts of things that you'd rather do yourself. Like playing the drums. I think it's probably more fun to play the drums than to program a drum machine. In terms of what you need it to do afterwards, there might be different motivations for different choices. I get that, but a lot of the time people playing the drums look like they're having a good time. And I think that's probably why we play the drums, rather than, it's not because someone has to. It's because it's, you know, it's a way of experiencing music and having fun with music, I would hope. You know, expressing yourself. And if part of that is sort of doing something technical and measured that a machine can do, well, that might be true in terms of making images. That's the thing. It's where's the value in it? If you dismiss any kind of depiction, I'm doing a lot of measuring at the moment. Any kind of depiction as being futile, because we have cameras now. I think it seems a bit of a shame almost that this spoon is going to be extra tricky. So I could do some more measuring. If I take that slice off, it's going to be about there. And that's going to lead me to where the front of the spoon is, and that feels about right. And that is pretty much a straight line that just curves in here. Something like that. And then goes straight back against it. And I'm using the brush to sort of cut the shape of the spoon in half, so I'm just looking at the bottom half. The bottom half is just doing that. And between them, it should say spoon. Let's just take that. From this point, it sort of matches up and then goes off in that direction. That feels about right. Okay, so now I've got a pretty good idea of what space goes where. I can still put in a few other things. So there's this stripe that goes around. Oh. So I can look at that composition, think about what I feel about it. And I'm okay with that at the moment. Oh, a few people found their way in. Yes, apologies again for the late start, but I forgot to press a button. Seems to be a lot of that going on at the moment. Okay. I'm going to do some more carving up the space and just really take my time figuring out what goes where. So I've also got this label. And there's a direction to the label as well, which is almost straight, and it comes out the top of here. And it'll go something like that. That's the white writing on the label. It's going to come out to about here. It's going to get carved off the top part, which is sort of this. So now I've got a space that that label goes into, which is something like this. I'm really just taking my time with it. That looks like it's in the right place. I'm not sure. Okay, and if I carve up some of these spaces, looking at where that relates to the shadow that travels across, it's just underneath. There's a line there. How far across does it go? It goes roughly level with this bit of the spoon, and it dips down, and it travels across again, and actually kind of wanders around, and then somewhere around here, yeah, there's these sort of shapes I can see. There's a directional line there. What else? Oh, yeah, that sort of pointy arrow bit there. There's a little bit here. Now if I line them up, use my spoon as measurement, that's in about roughly the right place. There's a reflected light under here. It comes from there and travels around a little bit just here. A little dip there and a little dip there. These are going to have to be very carefully mixed, precisely applied colours. That is going to be the background line. Where does it come out of here? Looks like it's lower down on the other side, so there might be some things off. Maybe it does lean a bit. Maybe that pip is, it's down here somewhere, isn't it? Just going to move the shadow down to around there. Okay. Little bits of fixing as I go along. If we put that roughly along that line, and if that carries on, that feels about right. Coming out of there. So yeah, I like the fact that some of these lines might show through, and I can divide these into bits as well. There's this extra blueness which kind of comes in sort of there, maybe a bit there, and all these things sort of add to the composition. Again, let's chop that into bits. That comes straight down. This comes out at an angle. Again, how far? Come on. I actually wasn't that far off with the mark at the bottom to measure where it went to. Okay, same thing here. I've got this sort of extra light that fits into that space. There, I've got this sort of double shadow here. The edge, okay. That seems to be an important point. Right. That's a start. Now I've got this green left over from some touch-ups on another painting. I don't think I'm going to be using very much of it, so I can probably, yeah, mix together the excess there. Pop that over here. Might turn up somewhere, who knows, but first things first. And this is very clean green, which I think might turn up a little bit as a colour to introduce to the what do you call it? The reflective colour to the yellow of the melon. But first of all, I think it's a simple three colours to start with, maybe four. I'll include the shadow. Okay. Let's do some of that background colour first. Tonally, this is going to be quite important. So if I go with that for my kind of, make a paler version of that. Yeah, that's my foreground colour. Then this grey here is probably about right for that background, but obviously it's a lot bluer than that. That's miles off. I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done is put a bit of grey out here. Just about do it. Put some white in this to get it to about the same tone. That's still darker. That's about right. Now the yellow is quite transparent, so it's not going to do a lot. So I'll add small quantities of that in as I go. Probably get away with a bit more. That's as green as I'm going to get. Yeah, so I'm going to keep that a bit more on the purple side. And just for the sake of starting point. Yeah, when I add the grey, it looks more purple. Put a little tad more yellow in that. That's very neutral. But yeah, that's a good starting point for that mix. I might put the palette cam on actually. Well, I remember. Nothing makes people switch off like mixing paint. That's the one we want. No, we want this one. No, that's not right. Neither is that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll do this right now live. Let's do some adjusting. Let's borrow this. Oh, that's not going to make it easy, is it? Okay. Swap these over. Good timing. Right, not that one. That'll be fine. Okay, let's try that. Okay, those are my beginnings of my blues. I've got that grey. I'm going to want this yellow. I'm going to get a different yellow out. I'm going to want some cadmium yellow on that. But maybe only in a couple of places, I'm not sure. What's this? Oh, you know what? This will do it. Ugh. Right, there's a really pale yellow over there. Let's put this in here. That's a cad yellow hue. I've got some actual cadmium yellow for if it needs to get really yellow. But let's see how this does in the meantime. So I'll start with some maximum yellow. And let's have some more mixing white. Okay. Now, what am I going to want? Two orange. Put some of that lemon in it. Now that's going to work for right up at the top in like one or two places. But other than that, it's not really. But this will be a good starting point. I clear some more stuff off the palette that I'm not going to need, like all of this. Let's mix it all up together and see what it does. Peachy. Like this, same thing. Right, so I've got some greenish yellows. Yeah, which will go this side, I guess. I've got some warmer yellows, which will go this side. I've got some tonal changes to deal with too. Changes in chroma. I'm really going to take my time with this because I'm not in a big rush. I can do this in increments. Okay, so we've got to simplify this down. There's a sort of a pasty yellow, almost kind of violet. I'll use a bit of that. That'll do for that. I've got this warm yellow, which is sort of what goes up at the top. Got a bit of this. And then I've got this greenish yellow. I'll just pour a bit of that green there. See what this does. Is that too much? Yes. That's too much. What's that doing? Yeah, that's on the greener side. What's this? This is just slightly paler. That's the warm one up top. Now, here we are. We've got shadow colour. So I was saying about that green earlier. I'll take a bit of that. I'm going to take a bit of this. A bit of that. Mix them in. And I've got a shadow colour to go with that as well. Bit of raw umber, see what that does. I only want it to be slightly darker than this background, which I guess it is. How about now? Comparing it to that. I think that's just about enough. Probably needs to be a little bit redder as well in some places. But I'll do that. If I've got enough of this, I'll be able to sort of develop it into the other colours it's going to be. Really tricky. If I put some on to begin with, I'll get some answers. Before I do that, that's not the ideal place to do it. Let's get some of this shadow colour. Let's make it a bit more purple. This is the last of the blue before lumps start appearing. Just a little bit. We can go a little bit darker. So it's quite easy to put a few lights back into a shadow. I don't want to be spending too much time darkening them. Okay, I haven't got anything for the spoon yet. I don't think I'm going to need it just yet. This could do with a bit more violet. I don't know what this is. I think that's out of a tube. Yeah, let's have a bit of that in here. We can always change as we go along. I'll start off just sort of putting in the main bits I'm confident with. That's unwelcome bit of cadmium which I put on by accident. Okay. Yeah, Muggins. Let's go back. Ta-da! Let's try putting some of these on. For the sake of crispness, I'm going to use some good brushes. Some more 10s. I might break out a few of those. Oh, yeah, there's a couple of bright 12s. What's that 10? Can't even read it. No. The bright 12s. I might even use a little bit of oil just to make it spread a bit, give it some presence. But first of all, if I put some of this blue on to create a context, yeah, again, it's not flowing much, but actually I want this to be sticky because I'm going to change this color. I'll follow the lines I've already made to acknowledge. There you go. To acknowledge these different sort of areas. Yeah, let's go one darker next to it. Let's see what that does. Down here. So I get that this is a change of style. I've already run out of that colour paint. That's really... Okay, let's go for one darker than that. It's too much. Put the other colour back. Okay, that'll do for that. Let's go for some of this pale colour. Probably not pale enough, actually. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to let some of that yellow into it too. Don't want to go too light because there's highlights on the spoon. Yeah. Again, that's just exactly the same as the grey, so I don't think I really need to do much more than that. What if I need to change it later on? Yeah, let's leave that. And the yellows. Let's start with that main yellow. I've gone in with maximum yellow when I should have waited. Should I put the shadow in first? I can see that now, and I'm doing this very thinly because it's not right yet. There's some idea of where these shapes go. Right. Let's do the warm. That's going to go in here. That looks pretty good. Where that meets the blue. does feel a bit like, quite a bit like what I'm actually seeing. There's a transition to green here. Okay. There's a yellower version of it under there. A particular interesting shape in the shadows that I like as well. I'm hanging on to. Okay. Right, if I go to the green one now. How's that playing? Probably too green. Yeah, it is. It sort of works for underneath there. You know what, I'm not going to be able to tell. I'll just make a greener version of this and see how it plays out. Yeah. No. Is it darker and greener? It's hard to tell. Yeah, that sort of does it. And the one under here. Now, until I put that shadowy blue colour on, I'm not going to know if that works. Let's have a bit of that. That's probably too dark. Yes, it is, but not for everywhere. So there's this third colour just on the inside. It's like I had before. Oh yeah, looks a bit like that. Maybe I could turn that up a bit. I think I probably could. Yeah, because I've set this accent light somewhere around this colour. A bit in there. Come around the corner. It's going to get a bit paler and a bit bluer. Just in there. And that's a lump. And I don't want a lump. I just painted my phone. Ah, right, everything's getting confused now. Too many brushes in my hands. There we are. It does a nice job of connecting those together. Okay, if I get back to that shadow colour, I go back to that cooler blue. Let's see if that works for under here. It doesn't. It used to be more yellow. In fact, it's much more like this. Still too green. That is quite green there. Okay. Let's adjust for this. Let's go back to this warmer yellow. I destroyed it at that point. No. Go a little bit lighter. Again, not lemony enough. Ooh, something there. Right, while I've got this colour, that's going to do well for this shadow that appears. Already got it there and there. And here. I'm going more into my style of painting now. Any homage to New and New Glow has evaporated. Oh no, there's some of that green there. Ah, no, I had this one over here. And that is in there. There we go. This peachy one. In there. It's in exactly that space, and it carries on over here. It carries on into a slightly warmer, slightly darker yellow. Just up here. A more intense yellow will be going on top. That's the peachy one. Take a bit of this lemony yellow, make this slightly greener light that goes over here. Sort of transforms into this. Right, this is where this more green yellow goes underneath. It's still bright. It still needs to be more orange. Yeah, I haven't even made a redder version. I'm going to need to do that. This is good for a ground. It allows me to put this other colour on top afterwards, but yeah. So now I can see my blue now and see whether that works. That black I put on at the beginning is still too strong, but maybe if I work it in, scrape it back and put a new colour on the top, it will behave. Yeah, I think it will eventually. Let's just get that worked in. Oh, we have a a spare bristle nobody asked for. There we are. Let's put a bit of that in here as well. There we are. Okay. Now, let's just go all the way into that black and re-establish that shape there. There it is. And let's pick up this light again. Put that back. I think that could be a bit more like this creamy colour, to be honest. Some sort of peachiness needs to go into that. Yeah, that works. And especially at the front. Create some nice lights down here. If those lines still show through, I don't mind that. I quite like it. I quite like that bit of dry brush as well. When I go back into the grey, go up to here, and then I can move over to one darker. I'll do it with the brush mix and see how it works. It's too much darker, that'll be all the way over here. No, it won't even be that. And use some of that dry brush to create that soft edge for that shadow. But actually it might do better to just let it mix on the surface. I'll pick the bits off later. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to have a little break, I think. I'm going to think about what to do when I come back to this. So obviously warming it up is going to be a big part of that, which is going to involve mixing some orangey colours. Let's scoop up my blues as they are. I'll be mixing some more of those as well. Right, that blue is gone. Come on. As my head moves, it moves the spoon. That's unhelpful. That I quite like. Maybe a bit there, and a bit there, where the spoon reflects. Maybe a bit more violet, in fact. That'll be okay. There we are. So yeah, I'm still wondering whether to turn up that violet, but actually I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is really going to be in making a warmer version of this colour. I've got a bit of this red here. I'm going to make some orange. Make slightly orange versions of each of these colours, especially that one. Still doesn't look right, but until it goes on I won't know. See what this does. Is it going to be in here? That needs more light in it. Weirdly, above this peachy bit and oh no, make a yellower one. Okay, especially when we get around the top. So the camera, phone camera pointing at the Alan is a big liar. It's not that orange. But it is more orange than my painting shows it to be. Let's go for even a bit more. And this up here. How far can we go with it? Very transparent, so it's not giving me much. I'm going to use a bit of a titanium white. To make a peachy light. And that's going to go here. And there. That's better. A bit better. How much better? Not that much better. Yeah, some improvement. While I've got the little brush going, let's put this shape in here. It's the bowl of the spoon. I guess much darker than that. So obnoxious. You can hear the poor sad little man next door. Okay, there's a warmer colour. That works in the spoon. There we are. Sort of back to painting my own way a little bit. Browner there, that's right. A bit here. Right, that's all right. Okay. Okay, too much detail now. I've got to make it simpler again. There is a dark shape underneath the bowl of the spoon, which is partly the shadow and partly the actual bowl of the spoon. There's a highlight which is going to go on there. There's a bit of pale yellow as well. Before that, mix of this warm grey. Let's see what that does. Yeah, once the highlights go on this, I think it will work. That joins that up with that. This is interesting. There's a shadow colour underneath the here. It's changed to a kind of melon colour. Oh, here's another interesting one. Well, I've got this brush on the go. There's this side of things, and then I'm really confusing myself. So I said I was going to have a break, and then I didn't have a break. Maybe I could do with a break. Maybe something like that shape there. That's the reason I could do with a break. That's fine. Don't need to do any more to that. This needs to come up here. That's part of it. Okay. Not quite it. Not just yet. As my head moves around, I might have to scrape that spoon back and start again. Okay. There we are. That's for Matty. Okay, now I'm starting to do bits of painting I'm unhappy with now. So just for the sake of that. That feels like it's roughly in the right place. Oh, maybe this isn't all bad. Is it spoon-like though? I'm struggling with this. Well, I suppose this is the advantage of having a screen. I can look at it on the screen and make a judgment. That'll help. See it new. Oh, some messages. Hi, Josie. Oh, crikey, the melon really isn't coming up at all. What is it? It's quite difficult to judge. The violet, I think it's Windsor violet at the moment, but I think they're all sort of. I get halfway through reading the words like dioxin something, and then get bored. It's like reading a Russian novel. Can't actually get to the end of anyone's name. Like once you're 2 syllables in, you go, okay, yeah, I know which character I want now, and you stop reading it to yourself in your head, and so you never quite finish it off. Okay, now I had this bluish color, so I can still at least keep track of these. That's going to come out there and in. If I go back to this red and some of this orange, it's going to be the color I need to do bits of this. Just a little bit of that. Ah, is that still wrong? I think it's still, no, hang on, is it? Yes. Right. That should be there. Work that back a bit. Some of that bright creamy yellow on there. There might still be time for a visit from the cadmium yellow, but it's quite possible I won't need it. Okay, there's some highlights and they'll sort of wear off as they go across. Join back in. I think I'm going to need some cadmium yellow. Spoon, spoony spoon. I think that's probably all right. Put that back in there. Right, blues. There's kind of just 2 blues for that. Oh, 3. Let's just do some of this. Just mix it with the black there. Then we get some of that, we mix it with some of this and see what that does. So I should have done it over here in the first place so it doesn't corrupt everything. And there'll be another one where, right. That's not the right brush. It's too big. Okay, that dark's going to match that there. I'm going to reach all the way over to this. It's going to make that shape at the end. Now, it's very important that this is a long thin shape, not a line. Very easy to accidentally paint a line, but it's not a line. It's a long thin shape, as is this. Oh, that's too much. Yeah, and then the light blue on top is going to be like this. Start for one more pass. There we are. Just do a little swoop for the edge of that spoon. That's too much. Take a bit away. Ah, no, there is an edge there though. And that I think is going to be crucial to making you see a spoon. Yes, there it is. That was important. Okay. Now I cleaned a brush and then there you are, this one. Okay. Very pale. What else? Put some of this orange in. I'm sure there's a brand of melon that will recognise their label, and maybe they'll send me loads of free melons. That'd be amazing. Okay, background colour. Oh, yeah, this belongs with this. I'm done with that. Done with that, whatever that was. Let's get a bit of cobalt blue. Some of this lemon yellow. That's fairly intense colour. I could go higher chroma than that, but I don't think I need to. I don't want to go any greener either. So there's places where I can do more of this. Make it a little bit lighter, and that should do. Yeah, more intense now. I'll do a slightly lighter version. Using titanium white and borrow a bit of that yellow to put in it. I guess I'll start with that. Come on. That's too green. Just a little bit. How's that looking? better actually. Use that brush over here. Let's go the paler one. There we are. Nice, I like that. Take it all the way to the top. Oh, look. Yeah. I'll break these edges afterwards, but to begin with, that's the lump. Sort of holding their shapes quite nicely. We go back to that pale one. There we are. Yeah, I think that might be me done. Oh no, there's a few last little bits. One of which, if I go back to my, no, it's too much paint rubber. Go back to my brown. There's a darker one just in here. Nice. Yeah, there's a redder one over here. That's also in there. I'm going to leave that alone. And then the last bit is this black pip. It's not all the way back. Even put a bit of that warm dark under here. And I think that will, no, it's a few other little, tiny little things. Let's pick a bit of that. A paler grey. There we are, let's shape the spoon. There's a few lumps in there, none of which are super important, but I don't want them. They can come out. That's probably it. Any other little highlights or shadows or lowlights or anything like that? What the hell was I thinking doing that? Yeah. few little lemony bits. Just do it at the end. Okay, that's fiddling. And stop. And line it in blue. It's got to be, isn't it? Hey, well, that was some fun. Lots and lots of space in this one. Yeah. I'm not going to make it so easy as to sort of acknowledge that it's a drawing and painting thing. Oh, here we are. We go across to this. We can have a little closer look. Messaged. A little wander in. Get right in there. There we are. So it adjusts the colour in there. Yeah, I've got some of the sort of the nature of the form and the texture of it. That's my spoon. It works now. It's fine. That's my big expansive blue up at the top. Now, of course, I could crop this down to a square or even a landscape image afterwards, but yeah, I like that sense of change, the sense of light coming in. If I have a look at our actual subject matter, once you get in there, you see some of those textures and things. Come back. I'm looking at it from here. Makes a bit more sense now, doesn't it? Yeah. So yeah, that was some intense observation, and that was the whole point of that as an exercise. Yeah. There we are. So yes, so I'm at the bottom in the middle, but thank you for coming. I will see you next time. Bye.